Dr. Isaac dial 0. Dr. Aldous 7204.
Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient. Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient. Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient.
System. Stop. We can't stop. Brave against the system. We won't stop. We can't stop. Brave against the system. We won't stop. We can't stop. Brave against the system. We can't stop. We can't stop.
Analyzing heart rhythm.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Thank you all for checking out this show and hitting that play button. If you're a new listener, that is what's up. I think you're going to enjoy this, and I highly suggest checking out our other guests and other series and topics that we have covered. Today, this is very exciting and a very, and I do mean that when I say that, and kind of a very, a very special, I guess, series for me. As you can see, there's been a little bit of changes with the show, and this is like the first series that I'm actually, doing since the return, and I'm actually covering a topic. I know, like, we had a series originally that had Robbie Marks, and then we had a guest, but finally, I'm covering a topic with people, and I've been very much looking forward to this. And when I had the idea of wanting to cover chakras, the first person I automatically thought of was Louis, because we already did the planetary series together when, on the NY Patriot show. And he did it with the chakras, in a sense. So I was like, well, this will make sense to bring him back for this. And I think I was mentioning it to, I was mentioning this idea, or something came up with me and Teresa, and then she had brought up that she had taught yoga and was into the chakras that way. And I was like, I honestly, I will admit, I do think in ceremonial magic, I do think chakras are very important. Now, the way that I practiced them was just basically focusing on them during meditations. I never had any of the really experience with yoga, except for if you want to think of holding one position for like 20, 30 minutes. Technically, that's a style of yoga, but it's not like, the experience that Teresa had. So I figured, why not bring her on? She, plus she understands a little bit of the chakras from teaching it. And I just thought it was another way to, all three of us, to look at it differently. Because I'm sure Louis, just like in the planetary series, there are things that we both, I guess, had a commonality with. We both saw it the same way. But we also had our own ways of looking at things that I think in the grand scheme of thing was looking at the same thing just in a different way.
Yeah,
so it was, or different puzzles. So I think in this series, this should turn out pretty well because we're going to have basically three different outlooks on it.
Yeah.
So it should definitely be
good.
interesting. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun, and I do think it's a very important thing. I don't talk about it actually much on our shows, but a lot of the practices I've even did back in the day that I think did help me in my magical experiences was focusing on my chakras, and also doing, like, I know I have mentioned I used to do the middle pillar ritual a lot. That's basically a meditation, and it's like you're kind of hitting, I think, 5 out of your 7. I don't know why, or I never paid attention why not the other 2. I haven't put much thought into it, but like you're still hitting 5 of them. So between doing Libra Resh and just focusing on chakras, and I'll even give Mark Stavish a shout out. He's got a book, Between the Gates. It's a lot of like chakra work actually, and focusing, thinking of colors, and putting letters, planetary symbols, in the chakras that you're trying to envision. I did a lot of work like that. And, give him a shout out for it. So I do think it's very much important, like, again, it's not something I have talked about, but I do really think understanding even what all those things are and what your chakra system is. And I know we're only going to stick to the ones here, but I mean, they're all over your body. They're in your hands.
Just kind of like how there's how we did the classic planets, but there's more planets than that. So like, right, it's kind of like with this, like we're doing the classical chakras. There's definitely more, like a bunch in the hands, and then like there's the higher up ones, past our body or whatever.
Yes, and I just do think, and I have, I'm pretty sure I've even said this to Teresa before, and I do wonder if a lot of times why, because yoga and chakras are highly suggested in magic. Or I could definitely say in the OTO. They will definitely suggest yoga and chakras and stuff like that. When it comes down to actual magic, I do think it is, like, again, like I say, real magic with a K, I think, is somewhat separating your soul from your body. If we're made up of electricity, those chakras and all that stuff, and knowing that stuff is energy and its ways of moving and manipulating energy, I think understanding that, and then maybe doing all these poses and making sure all your circuits are connected correctly, maybe you could start shifting that energy around easier if you can do that. So I do think that's why it's also very important. One, it's a way of your body kind of like all circuits firing correctly, and then being able to manipulate and move the energy through your major chakras up, maybe the middle pillar, whatever you want to call it.
That was the exact word that I had in my head, manipulate, and then you just said it right now. And yeah, because that's like magical to manipulate energy, because that's like how you get these types of alchemy or whatever, like spirit body alchemy or whatever. And yeah, man, freaking, I mean, well, it's like naturally, like if you put a light through a prism, it'll naturally have the different, like the separate colors that come out. And then like they're in that 7. And then once again, we hear about there's 7, like all the different things with 7, and it's like a holy number, like very holy like that. And then so
7
like
planets, 7 chakras, 7 days of the week. I mean, you have Crowley 777. Obviously, 7's an important number to him.
7 rings of Saturn.
Yeah, that's true. 7 rings of Saturn.
Yeah, I think like the chakras are like the main one for this, because like all the mantras go in there, like like how like there's Lamb and whatever, all those like Hindu mantras. And
there's actually one that I have that I think is kind of funny when I noticed the mantra for it.
Why? What is it?
Yeah, you say Sam, 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 and then triple some TRF something, and I was just like,
what?
I was like, that's real close to Sam Tripoli.
Yeah, very.
That's
and he
funny.
pushes that total chakra geometry shit a lot on one of his shows. But no, he's just an
geometry.
Idiot. He's just an idiot. But sorry, I would have said it when it came up real quick. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's a trip how I started seeing the red flags in that one, and then all that other shit happened later on. But it was funny because I was seeing red flags already before things started to hit the fan, like just like kind of some months before, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But it's like chakras, so they're like energetic centers that are all along our spine. And they're kind of like these energetic vortexes, right? And then so in the middle of the vortex is like a vacuum in a sense. And then that energetic vacuum can take in the different types of color vibrations and emotions that you're putting out yourself and that we're getting from the world or from people. And then so it sifts in different parts of our energies. And then so these things get stored up, right? And then so
I mean, even if you just kind of like look at it, and I would assume just going with the colors in a sense, it's like even when you look at the colors and going down your body, it's kind of just going in denser frequencies.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
the red, like the red is the most dense, but it's like the longest wavelength. And then the opposite, which is
I had to come from all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah, and then the opposite is like the fastest one, purple or violet, but it has the shortest wavelength, right? And then I remember I think I told you that I was like, oh, kind of like a washing machine, or I compared it to like those Asian, like those little water things that like water comes in, they spin and then go either way, you know. So that's like one analogy, and then you can also have like the lotus, because like the lotus petal flower, and they all have different numbers, and when you add it up, it adds up to the 144,000. So that's another analogy. And then another one that I heard is like discs. I kind of like this one.
Oh yeah,
so, like, because it's like
some people even say the word chakra means disc. I mean,
yeah, like in Sanskrit, right?
Yeah.
And then so I kind of like this one because it's instead of like a washing machine, how I had said before, like those Asian water kind of spinning things. This one goes like horizontal, and then it's almost like the red is the fattest, and then they kind of get stacked on top of each other, but they spin horizontal. And like how a plate, if you spin a plate, it's not going to go perfectly sideways. It's going to kind of wobble, like, and kind of ebb and flow. So I kind of like that one.
Well, I think in the like ancient East Indian Vedic texts, the chakras are described as wheels.
Yes, I have heard that.
So
too.
they spin, they move, and they're like a synapse of nerves concentrated in one area that controls hormones throughout the body. So like you're saying, you know, everything in the universe is made up of like light, information that we receive through frequency. So the different colors associated with the chakras is just indicative of their frequency. So like you're saying, red is the most dense, the most slowest. It's the most associated with like earth and matter, right?
Yeah.
And then as you get
earth.
higher, the frequency is faster, but the wavelength is shorter. So that's with all frequencies. It's just, you know, a general principle of frequency, right?
Yeah, because it's like you got to have like some kind of like classification in a way, or like kind of separation, because like they're together, but at the same time, like they hold their complete own space. And then so it's like boundaries is like a big thing to know about these things, and that's why they have their own jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, actually, one book that I was kind of reading prior to recording today, it's called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm sure a lot of listeners will be familiar with who he is. So he was describing the energy centers, the chakras, as like a dense collection of like synapses and neurons. So he's saying that basically they do all individually have like a mind of their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. So once you can get past your critical mind, your analytical mind, then you can enter into a space around the energy centers where you can then manipulate your energy to be able to be more complete and communicate cellularly so that you increase your life force and you're a healthier, happier person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's good to do, like, I don't know, if you can figure out some kind of exercise, or maybe like everyone's different, but maybe one day you could pick like on Monday to start with your root and just all day kind of learn about your root and this and that. And then that way, little by little, and then like each day pick a special day where you just focus on that. And then little by little, you'll really feel the differences of them. And then later on, once you kind of like really feel that, and if you have issues in your life, you're like, oh, well, what's going on? And then you can break down what's wrong with you, like even like in terms of glands too and all that. And you can figure out kind of what's wrong with you to kind of help stimulate that area. And then,
sure.
Yeah, because you can do that. And yeah, because I guess like the whole psychological and even like the glands and the colors, apparently that came like a little bit later on, like in Western occultism. And then like back in the old Vedic stuff, it was more just classification, and then what they would do is they would use those energetic centers to, like, you know, do the mantra, how we said, you know, like Lam and Ram and all that. And then on top of that, they would use that with the Hindu deity, like Brahma is, I think, like the sacred one, and like Vishnu and all those ones. And so they were doing that kind of stuff. And it's a trip because what I ended up doing, like once I learned about the chakras, was kind of a version of that, but I would kind of use the planets instead of like the Hindu deities, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I could understand that.
yeah. So like if I had a heart thing, then, you know what I mean, or some kind of heart issue, I would lay here and put my hand there, and then I would use like Venus or something like that. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like myself, you know, being a Christian, I tried to not associate like anything with it at the time. I'd always just like focus on connecting myself to God in general, you know. So you can apply it in whatever way works for you, I think. Because when I hear, you know, Christians say, oh, the chakras are evil and you should not meditate and this and that. Honestly, I don't believe that. It's very beneficial health-wise, energetically. It does bring you like into balance. So there's things, you know, that we can take from different modalities and philosophies and like marry them together, you know?
Yeah, because it's an archetype. You know what I mean? Just how like the planet, like how me and NY were saying on the planet series, is like it's not necessarily gonna be like a big old angel or a big old planet that's like, it could be in a sense, but it's more of like an energetic archetype that's primal. And then so you're using archetypes, and that's how we as humans can use that to like help work through our subconscious mind, because our subconscious mind is very abstract, right? It's like the depths of the shit, right? And so you need some tools, and then so those are very good tools, you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's just tools in your tool belt, and you know we have to remember that like God created everything, you know, and this is just how He created our body and the system to work. So you know, like Tesla said, you have to think of the universe in terms of like what? Energy, frequency, vibration.
Yeah.
So, you know, everything holds a vibration, and you can tap into that if you are experienced in focusing on that.
Yeah, it's like mind, body, and soul. You got to incorporate the whole damn thing if you want to be like really animated. And that's how NY was talking about separate the soul from the spirit, because that's like the difference of the real animation in you and not. Whether you're an animated character, like, am I a main character or am I a zombie? You know what I mean? It kind of comes out to that.
Well, I found it interesting. And when you said that you believe, you know, magic is like separating the, what did you say?
Your soul from your body, or your spirit from your body.
So yoga is the opposite. Yoga is to bind or to yoke. That's what the word means. Yeah, but you're learning how to manipulate that. So if you can bind it, can you not also do the opposite if you want? Right? It's just learning how to manipulate the energy.
Exactly. It's funny how every time I have that word in my head, you guys always say it. That's how you know we're on the same page. Because you can use like when I was talking to Amit from the Hawkett interview, I was saying manipulate gets a bad rap. You can manipulate something to help, or you can break it down. It's just a matter of changing. It just means to change. You know, or to transform or something like that. And yeah, it's a trip. Like I noticed that, like from the context of when I was reading these old people who specialize like in the old Sanskrit stuff, they were kind of biased on the new Western occultic version that incorporated all these psychological things and color vibration, like kind of like the more new agey version of it. And then so I saw where they were coming from, you know, and then at the same time, I don't know. I really like incorporating all that other shit with it. That was it Jung or that Freud, you know, added on to this shit. Yeah. And then there was like books in the 70s that really like in terms of like the color part that made it come out, like that shit got it like kind of hot or like popular. I don't know. For me, I kind of like it because it's like I'm like using a tool. I'm not trying to get married to a genre of a religion or something like that. You know, I don't know. For me, I kind of like incorporating all this stuff with it.
That's probably why, I mean, even when it comes to the Kabbalah, when I talk about the Kabbalah, I'm talking about the Hermetic Kabbalah. That is when you add all these associations to it. Now, I'm not saying that if you just go back to the original, you probably could get the same thing out of it, but I think it's going to be a lot harder. Because like now you really have to read between the lines. With all the associations, it just gives you other ideas and reasons why, and I think it also gives you different ways of understanding and working with it. If I don't like that association, this one might work for me, so I have an idea of that. Like if I don't want to work with the planet Mercury or Thoth, I can work with Raphael, though. You know, because they both fall in the same sphere.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to the Kabbalah. So, like, you know, I do think, like, when you start kind of, like, adding different associations to it, it does help. It doesn't make it stops it from becoming a religion.
Yeah.
Because now you're taking from other ones. You can't say it is one.
Yeah.
Or you're pulling from
you're
other
very
spiritual beliefs. You know?
Whatever. Yeah. No, it's a trip. It's a trip how like your thing of the chakras NY is like very related to like the spears and Kabbalah stuff and magic stuff because they promote. Like if you want to learn magic or be into the world of that, meditation is hella important, and then that's one big way that you get into the chakras, right? And then another way is yoga, and that's what you got, Teresa. And then another way is practicing Reiki, and then that's how I kind of got into the thing. Oh, because before I got into the chakras, I believe I got it, or it was kind of in the same period, but the Reiki really helped it out or something like that. Yeah, because then I was able to like to see colors in a way. One time I really actually did see colors in real life. It was one time only, and I was just kind of, I felt compelled to because my friend had a heart thing, like something happened to their heart, and then so I did it for a little bit, and I swear to God, like in between like the 3 or 4 inches away from the chest, I started to see like that forest green, but it was like in a translucent color. And I couldn't believe, and mind you, and I have to preface this, mind you, I was sober. Like I wasn't all, like I wasn't on any, like, this was normal. Right. But I just felt compelled. And then that was a one time where I saw it, actually saw it, like not in my third eye saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like we were saying, the different energy centers vibrate at a different frequency, each of them. Right. So the heart being green, that's interesting because I once had my aura photographed. Yeah, which was really cool. And mine was like entirely green.
Oh, wow.
Like solid. And then like just the edges were like yellow.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I found out like, relating to the auric photography, there's something called Kirlian photography, which was invented in 1939. So that's how like they would read and like analyze like auras and relating that to like biophotons. So that's like the electromagnetic energy that cells emit and receive and determines your life force, or like in yoga, we call that your prana.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see Strange Angel?
What's it?
Did you ever see that show, The Strange Angel? It was based on Jack Parsons in the OTO. The Magus at the lodge that he was going to would take pictures of people for that.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and it seems like if they were kind of progressing towards, I guess, a magical experience, you'd even start noticing like differences.
Their aura might change color.
But that's interesting that even in that movie, I mean that show, which takes place a while ago, long enough, back when Jack Parsons was alive. There was already somebody that they're showing in the OTO already hip to that.
Yeah, because we're freaking made of lights, like pretty much. You know what I mean? Like if you break down, like if we're a prism, and then how there's like crystalline like in us, that's the prism, the clear prism, and then you put the light on us, and we break up in different hues, and then we're and so that shit goes like that.
Yeah, something I did want to. There was a few things I wanted to get into before we started getting into this the actual chakras themselves. One real quick, because we were talking about discs before, and I just didn't want to interrupt and jump in. And then you had mentioned wheels. There's a book. It's called The Wheels of Life. That was a book that highly suggested within the OTO, actually, or in ceremonial magic from like any magician, of which I even knew too, that was into chakras. So I mean, that book is highly suggested for some reason.
Yeah, that's a main book.
Yeah, I have that. I have that actually, and some of the stuff I did pull from here. But they call it Wheels of Life, and I have, in a sense, I do think we were talking about the chakras before. I think in a sense, and this is the same thing that I think goes with the tree. I think each one of those, in a sense, is a jail cell or handcuffs. That chakra is keeping you here, but when you learn how to manipulate it, move out of it, and move on to the next one, you're kind of breaking the seals, maybe the 7 seals. You know, breaking, maybe removing the seven deadly sins. You know, who knows? Maybe breaking off the influence of the planetary energies. But I do think that actually, and what I was going to get at, I was wondering, the wheels. Now, those are also angels.
Oh, yeah.
Could that be them in form that is keeping us locked here? Could what we see and they explain be the spirits of it? And is it right
That's
here in us?
interesting. Well, and
The
also
wheels
just,
of life.
Just to relate it back to
there's humongous and tiny angels, right?
True.
So,
well, just to relate it back to planets, like sometimes, you know, if you've seen like those videos of what stars or planets actually look like super up close, and it does look like a flat disc with like light and movement, almost like faces, right? Like, have you guys seen those videos?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So would it just be that inside your body?
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And the reason and again, like the reason I even say that is because, like, you know, from stories that I have mentioned before on other stuff, I think the Scarlet Whore episode, like 3, 4, or 5, one of those, I went kind of like into it, my experience. But like, even when I've had magical experiences, it's as if like I could feel the energy. It's almost as if like water's flowing through, like going through my body and like going out. And I do honestly think, because like even when I'm meditating, like I would be meditating and actually literally like one of the ways or one of the tricks I guess I had to trick my mind into going along with it is that I would visualize my body actually in my mind's eye being sand. And when I started to feel the energy move away in my mind's eye, so would the sand blow away. So like I literally would be erasing my body and feeling it going away in my mind. And bringing it up, and then you get this intense pressure in your head, and you start feeling it on your third eye. And I guess if you just let things go and slip, I don't know, you know, you have an experience after that. But I'm just, my thought process is that you're actually, when you associate chakras, the 7, with the planets, and then you add Kabbalah into it, you start getting vices and virtues.
Yeah.
Could there be a vice to the chakra, and the virtue is what frees you and lets you go up to the next higher one? Yeah. That's what I think is maybe going on inside the body, in a sense. So, that's another reason why I think it's important to cover it, because I do think that.
Yeah, no, because that's a kind of like a part of what happens when you get that epiphany of realizing that like for every truth that the opposite's true, like you feel the polarity, like you witness the oneness of the polarity. You know, that's like an oxymoron. And then so that's kind of like a type of an initiation, is that once you start seeing that, and then that's what you want to start playing with. Like, then that's when you can kind of like start to feel free in this world, in a sense. You know what I mean? Because you can lock and unlock. You know what I mean? And yeah.
Well, you have like more control over your thoughts and actions in that sense, right?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
When all your energetic centers are firing and flowing and are open, balanced, then you have more control over your life.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because a part of here is to learn how to control yourself, in a sense. You know what I mean? And that'll unlock like new like kind of like levels and shit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And why do you want to bring up those couple of screenshots and stuff?
Yeah, I had my own that I'm still waiting to bring up too before.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's all right. No, I just wanted to ask those questions before we go further too. I was just wondering, you know, if any of you maybe thought I was crazy or it made sense.
No, it does. It does make sense. I never thought of that personally about vice and virtue, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the thing goes because it can spin either way, in a sense. How a flower can open up or close up. You know what I mean?
Well, that's even another thing. You know, they show the lotus at the top. Is that all of them going up to the top and opened up now and freeing you? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about. I mean, I don't know. It's like all the thing I think of when I'm stoned and ponder on.
Yeah, it's like opening up all the way. Like pretty much once you open up the crown, that 1,000 one, then it's then that's like it. Like that's like the end. You know?
Yeah. To me, in the yogic perspective, I just see that as imbalance or imbalance.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
And now, I'm going to pull up the slides. There were some things I did want to touch on. I think I even do have like kind of the shape of what they look like too, because I did want to touch on that. This is just showing something here. This is the Kabbalistic Tree of Life with its 10 Sephiroth and showing the lines. Some people will split it up, as you can see here, even into 7 sections. Again, in a sense, does that go along with the 7 things going up of releasing yourself? There is even parts in the Gnostic Mass. They don't do it 7 times. They do it 3, but they do the priest will do slicing motions on his body. I do think that is showing you the separation or the cutting off or the moving up. So something like that. But I did want to show, this is, how they, some people will say that this could represent, go along with the chakras. Here is just real quick some of the what they look like for people. They haven't seen them before. I will be tossing up pictures of them on the screen as we go, though, so people can see what we're talking about as we bring them up. Here was another thing, just kind of showing you going on the body. We have the
nadis.
Yeah, you have the Pingala, Ida. Or if I'm even saying those right.
Ida and Pingala.
Yeah.
Yeah, the masculine and feminine energies.
Yes.
I guess the main chakras is kind of like the main river in a sense, and then the
no, the other ones are like rivers, right? Yeah, or like those little things that come off of it.
Kind of like streams, like the little smaller ones, and then they like energetically they kind of bring it in and they sift, so like they'll kind of clean something up in a sense that needs to be cleaned or detoxify, and then they can kind of bring it back out to the main river, which is like the main chakras.
Yeah, well, I think like most people throughout the majority of their life are stuck in like their first 3 chakras. So the root, solar plexus.
Honestly, I honestly would say I think
plexus.
Most people are stuck in their first 2. I mean, I think even saying 3 is giving humanity too much credit.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, you could take
a lot of 3 though. A lot of 3 because that's the id. That's all the ego. So a lot of people are caught up in their idea of themselves, their identification of themselves.
Very much, yes.
Yeah.
Here, I did want to show this. It shows how this is like the liberating current and then the manifesting current. Again, I think that kind of goes along with what I was saying, like maybe the liberation of the soul, going up. And I do also think like it's just, this is almost like a yin-yang I think you're kind of seeing here, or even, God, what's that zodiac symbol? Oh my God.
Cancer?
Yes. Which is in the keystone a lot for the Mason arches. Yes. This is you crossing and coming back. Going up and coming down. Right? And I think that's just showing you, the life cycle of spinning, going up and coming down. And that's all I really had for those. I do have other ones that I'll get onto when we get to them. So I just wanted to show those. And then I will pull up yours now.
Sure. Well, yeah, I thought it would be good to just go over basically like how frequency and light works in general. And then we can apply that to like the different chakras and stuff, just to give people an idea. Although I'm sure a lot of listeners are familiar already.
Yeah, but like, since we're like light and we come from the ethers, it's like the chakras, they're like the etheric motor of the soul. And then all the different spots that we have that light up, they're like a conductor for the Kundalini to pass through in its own way, like in its own initiatory way.
I like that what you said. What did you say? Etheric conductor?
Yeah, I like that.
Dang, Louie.
Yeah, they're like the chakras are like an etheric motor of the soul, and then it's like a conductor for the Kundalini to pass through.
Put that on a bumper sticker, yo.
You're right.
That's a good one. So this is just from Dr. Dispenza's book. It's just showing the light spectrum of electromagnetic frequencies. So I'm just going to read quick from the book. So the majority of frequencies are beyond our perception. Therefore, most of our known reality in this universe cannot be experienced by our senses. So aside from our ability to perceive light being absorbed or reflected off objects and things, the truth is that we are able to perceive only a very small spectrum of reality. There's a lot of other information available to us besides what we can see with our physical eyes. So when he refers to light, he's talking about all light, including the entire electromagnetic spectrum, not just visible light. So in that figure 4.1 there, you can see that like visible light is in the middle, and it's just such a small like sliver of what is able to be perceived, right? So interestingly, like the more energy you have, the quicker the cycle of the frequency waves go, right? And then the less energy you have, the longer and slower the frequency wave is. So, for example, radio waves are slower than X-rays and gamma rays, right? And then, you know, if you're taking the example of like a radio, just because you don't see the waves doesn't mean that they're not there. Like if we had a radio right next to us right now and turned it on, it would tune in to a station, right? But there wasn't sound before.
Oh,
we couldn't perceive it, right?
People listening to us right now aren't seeing how they're listening to us.
That is true. Absolutely, right?
You don't see the waves flying into your phone, do you?
Right. No, you don't. But they're there. They're there just waiting for a transmitter.
Yeah.
Right? To pick them up. Just like, you know, on your radio, if you just turn the tune dial one notch, you're on a totally different station. Right? So I think, honestly, like in bigger picture wise, it's literally like an attack on all our frequency health and like cellular health. And that's like big picture what is going on. Because they want to keep us in like the lower like fear state.
That I believe, yeah.
You know, and stuck like in those first 2 or 3 chakras and like never able to like get past our critical mind, analytical mind, or like our fight or flight response of our nervous system.
Well, you know, before, you know, when I made that joke, I said I don't know if I would even give people 3. It's because like, well, if you really think about it, like right now, probably like the biggest issues or the biggest things going on right now is people just being fearful of what might happen because who's running the country. So fear, which would fall into the root for me, I would assume fear.
Oh,
like,
100%.
It is.
you know, and then the next, when you start getting to one other side, they're very much pushing sexual things. I mean, not so much incorporate sex.
Yes.
You know, what's also been very important, abortion. That still would go down there.
It is with reproduction, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, like, believe it or not, a lot of things that has been controlling one side or the other side has only really been those 2 spheres or those 2 chakras.
Absolutely, it's both sides, and I would even say that, you know.
Oh, well, that's another. You know, just because somebody calls himself a Republican and doesn't have pink hair, but acts out sexually, does you know what I'm saying? You're no different than a leftist who does it
I
with
would
different
even
colored
go
hair.
so far as to say, you know, like a lot of people, maybe people will get mad at this, but in like the hardcore like freedom fighter movement, a lot of that is very fear based. Like a prepper mentality is extremely fear based. It's keeping you in your lower energy centers, like making sure you have enough food. I'm not saying you shouldn't make sure, you know, that you're okay, but like keeping you in that fearful state of like, oh my God, do I have like a year's worth of food? Oh my God, do I have a way to get clean water? Oh my God, what if there's a nuclear thing? Oh my God, oh my God. It's like a constant from both sides, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about that. And then,
it's definitely targeted. It's a targeted thing, you know.
Absolutely.
And so like they have goals, and even like ad companies and corporations have their goals, and that's why they spend hella money on research to find out, oh, well, what color does this? What color vibration does this? Because I want to get this goal from these people, so I want to find out how to extract this from them using colors, and then they'll flash these in the back on whether it's conscious or subconscious or whatever, and then so like all that stuff is pretty legit. Like it really like it gets used. It's freaking science. It
is absolutely. Yeah, and this diagram here is just showing like frequencies and wavelengths. So how they count like a hertz, for example. So if you see on the diagram point A and then the wave dips down and comes up at point B, that's one cycle. So in this wave, for example, there's 5 cycles per second. So it's considered, that's like the hertz. So it's like 5 hertz, right?
Yeah.
Or like red the color red, for example, cycles at 450 cycles per second, right?
That's
But
interesting.
blue cycles at 650 cycles per second. So our body is like constantly like taking in, like when you think about it, it's very overwhelming. It's taking in like all this information constantly from our environment around us and subconsciously as well.
Yeah, and then that's why the whole like I pretty much think about all the towers that are up and all the different types of technology, and then
Yes.
that stuff is pretty much directed to the base chakra in a sense, because then that's going to be like the grounding thing where you're not going to feel connected to like the earth because there's like a disruption or whatever like that. And so
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're constantly trying to like intercept our body's ability to like regulate our frequency on its own.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
yeah, we're made of different charges, like positive and negative charges, right? And then so they'll put with that technology, I think it puts too much positive charge, and then so we have to like go and regroup by like grounding and all that shit like that, like that shit.
Yeah. Actually, interestingly, it's funny you brought up, Louis, about the positive and negative charges. So that's like what we learn in school, right? Like all cells have like a positive and a negative charge, and that's true, right? So it's interesting you brought up like the positive and negative charges because Dr. Dispenza says that charged molecules attracting and repelling each other are not responsible for the way cells work. Instead, the electromagnetic energy that the cell emits and receives is the life force that governs our molecules. And that is a vitalistic view that supports the truth of who we are.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so the electromagnetic portion is more important, actually.
Yeah.
Again, electromagnetic. Going back to electricity and magnetism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
exactly.
You know, and I did want to mention before Louis was going into it, and I mean, and this is a thing I'm sure people are probably tired of hearing by now, but I'm just going to repeat it anyway. Something that me and Lux had repeatedly mentioned in the past. You know, these people, I mean, they wear weird enough outfits, but there's a reason why it's a certain color. There's a reason why there's certain sounds in their music. There's probably a reason why almost all music is electronic now, because then you can probably hit different sounds.
Yeah.
You know, the sounds and color are the same thing, really.
Yeah.
And, like, there is a reason why somebody has a retarded but red outfit. You know, it's just, you know, there's a lot behind, I mean, I'll even go back to taking it to Travis Scott's concert. I mean, who knows what was going on there? I do think it is understood what sound and frequency can do to a human body. There is, we've covered before, I think I brought it up, somehow talking about Travis Taylor. I think he was involved with, like, energy weapons, and I went over, like, what some of these energy weapons that he could have been possibly working on. And, like, they have energy weapons where it's like they'll just aim something at you and pull a trigger, and the water in your body will, like, make you hurt and fall down, and you'll be in, like, a fetal position and you can't move.
Dude.
If they know how to do that to you, I'm telling you, they know how to do other stuff with color.
Yeah.
You know?
And sound. And it's like tones and frequencies, and that's why they were playing that stuff in the beginning of the concert. They were already playing those tones, like those weirdo tones where you couldn't even make out what it was, but they knew what it was. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So manipulating the water and probably graphene in people's bodies, you know, considering I think you had to be jabbed to get to that concert. So,
you know, I had wondered about that, and I actually wanted to look into that, but I never did.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. When we had covered it, I think I had mentioned, I was like, I'd like to know the percentage of the people who unfortunately passed, and how many were jabbed.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's a totally other different topic. Here, I just wanted to show some other things. Again, you have the first chakra that's kind of like in the base, but then chakra 2 can go with the testes and the ovaries. Chakra 3 can go with the pancreas. 4, it's showing here. 5, the thyroid. 6 would be the pineal gland. Pituitary. Just another angle on the body. This I did want to really show because it is very familiar to. This was a long time ago. If people even remember the Gateway series. For new listeners, you may not even know that one exists. We have like a 2 or 3 part on the Gateway stuff. And that was kind of like scientists using sound again. Not scientists, really. The CIA got involved with, I already forgot the guy's name. He has HemiSync. I think it was actually even started on Long Island. Certain sounds and tones, this guy created this meditation that would help you start astral travel and have these magical effects. So the CIA decided to throw some people in there to see if it was legit. And they end up doing studies on it, and they start going into the whole thing about hemi-syncing and kind of like what's going on in the body, and they get into like the whole idea of like syncing your heart to then also syncing your two parts of your brain, and they start getting into like black hole stuff. But they do bring up this same figure like this when they start getting into like the Taurus, the Horus, the body's energetic field, black holes. I mean, the Taurus. I mean, not the Horus. I threw that in there by accident. But no, because I always think it shows both, actually. But it mentions, the Taurus and the, all that stuff. And it's very much like this. And this is, I'll read it here. Instead of fluid, chakras are made of symbolic patterns of our own mental and physical programming. This programming governs the way we behave, like programming in a computer. It channels the way energy flows through the system and gives us different kinds of information. Each chakra, which literally means disk, can be thought of as a programming on a floppy disk that runs certain elements of our lives, for our survival programs, to our sexual programs, to the way we think and feel. I think maybe it was the other page, but the other page does explain that this is also like kind of what they say is like the spinning chakra. And this was a question I meant to ask earlier to both of you. I know I do, or I can still, and I have in the past. Through your practicing and actually focusing on chakras, do you feel that when you focus on it, you can actually feel like it's almost like a little Tasmanian devil spinning there?
Yeah, sometimes.
Right?
Yeah,
Totally.
like well, even earlier. Now you kind of reminded me when you were talking about the whole sand thing, and then right in the beginning of that, like the preface to the sand, you mentioned that you could feel like moving, and it was almost like you started dancing. Tell me like how you see these people out there, like in festivals or just anywhere out in the parks, and they start doing this dancing, and they're kind of like that, like they're feeling the waves of the chakras, and because like this picture, for example. The middle part reminds me, that's like the Kundalini. That's like the snaky part, right? Like in the middle, like the caduceus part. And then the outside part kind of looks like a heart, but that's kind of like your aura. So then your aura is like playing with your Kundalini. And then you're having a dance because your aura is your interpretation of the outside environment. Like people who don't know about an aura will be like,
well, if you're saying that they're dancing, they're already allowing the outside environment to manipulate
influence them. Yeah.
So like you're already letting it anyway.
The outside interpreter, like it's like interpreting, because like someone who won't know about like the aura, if you say, okay, imagine if you go to the beach and then the wave and you're walking on the sand and the wave crashes down on you and almost takes you out, like whose fault is that? And they might blame it was the water, but it was really your aura. And it was your aura's interaction with the water that made that happen. Like that's the truth. And then so like that's your interpretation of that. And then it's having a party with the snake in the middle. And so
having a party.
It was funny. You mentioned
that's
like
people like to spin and dancing. There's dances where people like I've seen it. I forgot what country they're at, but they have these things on their head or whatever, and they're spinning so crazy, like right there on their feet. And then how people like to do waves, even me including, will like to do wavy dances, and then so that's a part of that too. And so yeah, and then when I've worked on it before, how I kind of like when I would, because there's different versions of it. There's like when you want to add energy or add chi, you spin them one way, and then when you want to decrease another, and then there's another type where you extract in a sense, like a kind of like a cleansing, like you pull out gunk or shit, right? And then in the one where I pull out the gunk, that's how it works, is like I'll have my hand there, and then like after a couple minutes it'll go like this, and then it'll spin and spin and then spin, and then I'll be like woof, and I can like pull it out like that. And then so that kind of reminds me of that one. Yeah.
So that's cool. Well, I think that's why they wanted us, it's like the 6 feet apart during, a few years back.
Because they can't interact. Because your aura and my aura can't interact. Like, you can only interact on a on a screen.
Yeah, well, exactly. We couldn't influence each other's energetic field as much.
Yeah.
Right. It's sad for the human to live like that.
And then people get used to not connecting your heart.
Yes.
That's what happened. It makes it so society is like less
you have
formal.
to sync both.
And then people are okay with being less formal. Like, we're already to the point where, me included, I'm not going to say I'm not, but like, where I'd rather have you text me than call me. Like, if someone calls me, like, what do you want to call me for? You know what I mean? I'm like, text me first before you start calling me.
That's only for VIPs, those
right,
calls.
Yeah, that's like, like, what's going on?
That are for old people who don't know how to text.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not freaking free from the thing in a sense, but at the same time, I know that, like, it took away a lot of connection, and it made people comfortable with taking away our connections and stuff.
Yeah, well, even in just like, daily interactions with people, I've definitely noticed a difference from like 4 years ago to now. Like, people are less polite, they're more rude, in a hurry. Like, there's less compassion. Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, that's the heart. Well, like, the heart chakra took a hit, so they did a good job with.
It took a big hit. Exactly.
There's a couple of things here that I actually was going to that I wanted to read real quick, and it's actually like perfect kind of what we're talking about. There was just a few things I did want to kind of like read just to get into chakras a little bit before we get into the root one. Chakras send energy out from the core of the body, and they assimilate energy from outside that enters the core. In this way, once again, I define a chakra as an organizational center for the reception, assimilation, and transmission of life energy. What we generate determines much of what we receive, and in this way, it behooves us to work on the chakra and clean up outdated, dysfunctional, or negative programming that may be getting in our way. Through involvement with the outside world, patterns within the chakras tend to perpetuate themselves. Hence, the idea of karma patterns formed through action, or the laws of cause and effect. This is common to become trapped in any one of these patterns. This is called being stuck in a chakra. We are caught in a cycle that keeps us at a particular level. This could be a relationship, a job, a habit, blah, blah, blah. But I can even think of plenty of times for myself where it's like, you knew you were stuck in a cycle and just kind of just let it keep going, sure. I guess, right? Yeah, but like we all know it's like a cycle that's like, this really isn't good for me.
And then it snowballs because say your throat is kind of weird, right? Like your throat chakra. Like yesterday I was playing cards for a little bit and I realized I couldn't talk like my normal loudness, right? I was like, what the fuck? And I knew it was and then what's going to happen is that it'll have an effect to the ones that are closest to it. Like my heart and then my third eye, you know what I mean? So it's going to have like, it'll, cause if it's messed up here, it's going to want to start to mess up the closer ones next to it. And so, yeah. And then, so, I mean, and you work with it. And then, so you freaking pick up the clues. Like, that's why it's fun. Like, I guess that's why I like the planets and then chakras a lot, because I can find that they can correlate because you kind of pick up the clues of what's going on in yourself. And I'm like, all right, freaking, like, let's fucking do this. Like, or at least know when to retreat, like know when to get rest, like know when to maybe start journaling or I don't know, whatever the hell. Right. And so. No,
I definitely think for me, again, this is why it's different. All three of us are different. Teresa's probably not really applying it to planets, as much as you are. I would include planets and then the Kabbalah. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's plenty of different ways of.
Yeah.
I do.
Or even like deities, because just how.
Yes. That too. Yeah, for sure.
Just how in the beginning, in the earlier part of the show, I was saying how the old Sanskrit, the OG Sanskrit guys, like they're very about just the mantra, like the Indian mantra, and then the deity, whether it's Brahma or whoever. That's just kind of how they go. And so you can incorporate like Aphrodite, if your heart maybe was broken or something like that, or whatever, or Thor, if you wanted some vitality and you wanted to have a good night, you know what I mean? And so that kind of thing.
I was going to read here also. I have like a few more things and then we'll get into it. I'm sorry.
No,
This is a couple just interesting
Straight.
thing that I just want to make sure I cover too.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Chakras can be open or closed, excessive or deficient, or any of the various stages in between. These states may be basic aspects of someone's personality throughout most of their life, or something that changes from moment to moment in a response to a situation. An ailing chakra may be unable to change its state easily, be stuck in either an open or closed state. The chakra then needs healing by uncovering and removing whatever is blocking it. If a chakra is blocked in a closed state, then it is unable to generate or receive energy on that particular plane, such as love energy or communication. If a chakra is blocked in an open or excessive state, that means it tends to channel all energies through that particular plane, such as using all situations to further one's power or meet sexual needs.
Yeah.
So you could be closed off too, or you could be a little bit too haywire. Again, there is a balance, I think, to that as well.
It could be spinning out of control or just dead. I guess the word that was coming to my mind was dormant. Like when you were saying that, right? How it could be the other way. So dormant is kind of like a weird, fucked up version of hibernating, right? And then so the reason I forgot, God damn it, but in terms of the base chakra, I forgot what analogy, but they all spin and like they have their rotation. But the base, because it's on the bottom, it has 2.5. And the reason why it has 2.5 compared to all the other ones is because that's where like the beginning and most of the dormant shit is. So a big job is to just work with the base first to make that not dormant, and then that will be the beginning of you being able to have a chance of reconciling Kundalini energy, where you feel like that wholeness of being dynamic or whatever like that. And then so because especially down in there is where it's dormant. Like that's where like you can even think of like the abyss or like void kind of stuff. Like it has a tie to that, and that's why before you come into this world, you're in the womb. That's kind of like the abyss, how you're in there in the dark water swimming. And then when you come to the world, and that's the beginning of the awareness of consciousness, with the root or whatever.
The water analogy, it's almost like, those like kid bath toys where like you fill it and then it spills and then it spills to the next.
Yeah,
exactly. I feel like you have to work from, in the case of chakras, you have to work from the bottom up.
Yeah.
It would be the reverse. But it's true. You have to like unlock or like balance the first one, the root, and then go up from there, because if not, it doesn't really
it makes
sense.
It makes all the practical sense in the world, because think about it. It's like the root in the beginning, it's like your survival, your needs and all that. Yes. How are you going to be thinking about spirituality and like love relationships when you can't even get your shit together and you can't even, you know what I mean? Like
totally.
You have all these things, or like if you're in so much pain, like maybe you need a surgery. How can you think about writing a book or doing hobbies when like your shoulder is killing you and you need to go to a doctor? You know what I mean? You have to take care of these things first, and then use these. It's like they're stepping stones, and then they each get more refined, and then that's why I guess it kind of gets like faster and faster, because it gets more refined and all that stuff.
Yes, totally. Mm-hmm.
I also did just want to mention real quick. I mean, just to make sure I covered it, and that people weren't like, "Wow, you never mentioned it." The Kundalini, I think, does go with this. Like the rising Kundalini.
Absolutely.
All the chakras going up. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not gonna be bothered.
Obviously it correlates. The Kundalini rising from the bottom up.
It's like God, like it gets like nowadays, because of with like social media and how all these so many videos. Like kind of how I kind of cringe now when I hear the word manifestation. Like before I would say it more and stuff like that. And I'm a person of like intention. Like I do believe in intention a lot, but then now hearing that word intention, I'm like, oh shit, I get kind of cringy because this shit got saturated. I pretty much feel like that about Kundalini, like rising type of stuff. But at the same time, I'm an advocate for it. Like that's why I'm all about like yoga stuff. Like I just told you guys in the beginning earlier, like on our pre-game, that I like just finished from doing some type of yoga shit, because I'm trying to always keep my energy like going, like where it feels like I have a type of dynamic in me, You know what I mean? And then it's just and it's like wholeness. It's not anything special. Like, yeah, some people have these crazy experiences, like, oh, and then my shit was tingling and vibrating for how long and this and that, and that's like really cool. And then I mean, I guess I've had my type of experiences, not like that per se, but I've had like my oneness. Like for me, I consider it like oneness and wholeness. Because then when you're like that, you feel complete, and then there's like no true complaint in a sense. And then so yeah.
I can relate to that a lot, Louis. Like, you know, like I said, I haven't practiced yoga in a long time because I had kids and it kind of just fell to the wayside. But I know when I was practicing regularly, you know, and after teacher training and stuff, when you are practicing in that space and able to like stay in that energetic state, everything is just full of gratitude and like full of love and compassion. So it just affects like your worldview, you know, very much. And it's like a beautiful just way to live, you know, if you can stay in that state. And it's not, you don't have to do crazy stuff. You don't have to sit there and chant like lamb, lamb, lamb for like 20 minutes. And like, you don't have to do that.
Or be like a power meditator where you just let me hit it for like 4 hours. And no. I mean, I'm sure totally it does all that work, or I'm sure it helps.
I'm sure it does. I'll just say a little disclaimer. So like we're talking about the Kundalini, and like that's true. Like our, you know, we have the two, the nadis, Ida and Pingala, circulating and crossing throughout the body, up the chakra system. That is true. However, you know, there is a style of yoga called Kundalini yoga, which I have tried. I've tried a couple classes just out of curiosity. And personally, it was not for me because, again, it was one of those things where like they get you to do these things called kriyas. So you're like doing the same movement like over and over, attempting to like unlock energetic centers, crazy chanting. Like it was not for me. And honestly, I think that's partially why I did stop practicing yoga for a time, was because you can then verge on opening yourself to other things, maybe not positive things. So you do have to be, you know, it's my little disclaimer. You just have to be like careful when you're doing these practices, because not everyone is going to have the best of intentions with you.
Yeah, with the vibe that, and then what you just explained, I get like a very ritualistic vibe.
Very ritualistic, yeah.
So that could be very polarizing. I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, because I don't know that much about that, but it seems very polarizing. So I could leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just you know, more generalized yoga, I'm a fan, but that particular style, I was not a fan. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, for me, just like with everything in my damn life, like I don't know, like because I'm like an informal guy in a way, and then so it's like I learned like I took classes at the gym like some years ago, like to like learn like kind of like beginners yoga or yoga 101 or whatever the fuck they called it. And then I had one friend kind of teach me a little bit, and YouTube and shit. But then now it's like I kind of incorporate that flavor, but I do my own shit.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Because everyone's different. Like some people have a desk job. Some people have a this. Some people's body can handle this. Some people can only handle, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? And
yeah. And yeah, people think that, you know, you got to do all these crazy poses to like be good at yoga. There is no good at yoga. It's a practice. It's never going to be a perfect. And the whole point of doing the physical asanas, like the postures, is to prepare your body to be in a meditative state, to like pry and manipulate the like lymph in your body, you know, and all your you know, physical stuff to open up your energetic stuff. So then you're ready to sit for a long ass time because you stretched and you're good, and now you can sit for a long time or lie down for a long time and not be like twitching out all over the place. You know, you've just worked out those kinks and now you're ready to meditate. And that's the whole point of yoga. It's not like a westernized view of like, oh, I gotta like get my ass to look good in Lululemons. Like that's not what it is, right?
Dude, no, it's funny that because I was thinking the word. Well, it's like similar to like how you approach meditation, and then you said meditative, and I'm like, oh, see, there you go, because it's like people get scared, or there's a stigma of like, oh, am I doing it right or this? It's more a matter of just getting in there and just doing it in a sense, and then it'll happen, like it'll flow, like just like let it go and go with the flow. It's more kind of like that, and then so.
Well, and a big part of it is being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So like when you're in postures, it's teaching you to stay with discomfort. It shouldn't hurt, but uncomfortable is like a good edge to be on. So can you apply that to the rest of your life? Can you make your life a living meditation off of the mat as well?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get like these cool, like these kind of different like highs, like afterwards, or like you might be able to feel like insights, or like on the drive home, you'll get like that insight clarity shit, you know, which
that drive home is the best.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like on the drive to there, you're thinking all this other, like I'll be thinking like more weird shit, you know what I mean? Like, oh shit, like, and then on the way back, I'm like, like it's more like
exactly. Yeah, on the way there, you're honking at the guy in front of you, like, hurry the fuck up. And then on the way home, you're like, everyone is great.
You're like, somebody better be dead for this traffic.
Yeah. And then on the way home, you're like, go ahead.
Like, oh. Yeah, you're letting everybody go now.
Have patience.
Yeah, that's so funny.
It's true, though.
Yeah, it is. That's why I'm laughing at it.
That's why you have to practice. You have to keep doing it, because it's not permanent. You know, we slip back into that, those patterns real quick, right?
Well, we get blasted with a million different radio stations that take up our attention.
Exactly, right?
You know?
It's like when she is always being manipulated. So you got to counteract that with your own, habits and stuff.
Yeah, it's like there's a reward to when you break through like some kind of wall, like, you know what I mean? And then so whatever that is, like there's emotional walls, there's physical walls. And so when you break through a type of wall of your own, then there's like some kind of payout, you know what I mean? And so.
Absolutely. You can feel the difference.
Hell yeah, dude.
Real quick, Teresa, I want to ask you your opinion. Because you have, I guess, maybe more experience with actual yoga. But like some of these poses, I mean, like you were saying before, sometimes like getting over the uncomfortability of just sitting in a pose for that long.
Mm-hmm.
Some frogs, turtles, they can just sit there in the sun and not move for a long time.
Yeah, man.
And you see them in a lot of occult stuff too, besides other things that I think it's used for. But I have also thought the discipline that they have to just sit there on a log.
It is discipline, absolutely.
Yo, that's just not easy.
No, it's not. There's a line in Gladiator.
Think a human couldn't do that. You just to the simple fact they'd go to grab its phone every 40 seconds.
Totally. That's a huge thing too. Like, absolutely, our dopamine system is rewarded by stupid shit constantly. Can you imagine, like, that's what it is in meditation. Is like, you don't have to even necessarily focus on anything particular. It's just like letting your thoughts pass you by. Not reacting to the thoughts, right? So like the frog, sit on the log, chill the fuck out, let the flies pass you by, whatever. You see something swim by, you don't even give a shit. But then when you're ready, you can just get that tongue out and snatch the fly that you want, right? So it's like how you could like pick your thoughts. Eventually, when you're very practiced at it, you like let all these shitty thoughts go by. And then you're like,
very focused.
I like this thought. This is the one that I'm going to put on myself. Right? It
reminds me of like getting in the zone, because like just how the frog knew that exact moment to like just the timing. So I think like when you hear about basketball players like Michael Jordan and this and that, a lot of them allude to time slowed down
when they're in the zone, right?
Yeah, and or it got bigger, like a weird bigger. So like when you slow it down, you can make it like it got bigger, like easier in a sense, so that frog could easily get that.
Absolutely,
slow everything down.
I can relate that. I have a small dance background as well. It's like when you learn new choreography, it's very overwhelming at first, and you're like, oh my god, how am I ever gonna be able to like keep up with this? But as you practice it, then you're like, oh, there is so much space for me to like reach the next movement. Whereas like when you first did it, you were like, oh shit, oh my god, you're like in a hurry. But as you practice it over and over, and your body starts to get used to that sequence of movements, you're like, oh yeah, I do have time to like get my leg over here or whatever it is, right? It's just practice. But maybe people shouldn't knock reptilians as much. Yeah, there's a quote in Gladiator about like a sea snake that waits at the bottom of the ocean for its prey to come, and it even let the prey like eat it a bit first before it attacks. So it stays super chill, and then all of a sudden it's like bam. So I'm like, man, that's interesting. Like maybe we should be more like that. It's just the idea of being less reactive to everything. And it's even like social media is such a good example of that.
Oh yeah.
People are so reactive to shit.
Yeah.
For real.
And literally what does it is just a thing on a screen. It's literally
it's not even
colors,
real.
types.
Well, yeah.
That's all it is an avatar and a meme. And people look at that on this little phone in their hand. Wow. That's magic.
That is serious magic.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the, I guess, in terms of chakra, it'd be like the yellow chakra, but that's like the ego. Because the ego, it can potentially give you the trap of what you think you have to do. It's like there's all these premises of, well, I think I have to do this. And then I think, no, you don't think. You don't have to think anything. So then I try to take that, like if you want to call like a type of death, or how earlier, Teresa, you're talking about like the whole stopping thing, you know what I mean? Like that pause. Mm-hmm. That's like when you get the pause, that's like you can be the in between the thoughts. Like that's where the silence, like that's where you can harness yourself. And then that's how you can try to sift away from stuff. Because if not, you're going to be in the wave, crashing in the waves. But if you can get in between the waves, you know what I mean?
Oh, you just need to silence the waters.
Yeah, then
well, it's like how they say to get out of an undertow or a riptide, right? When you're caught like in that loop underneath the water, aren't you supposed to just relax and not fight it?
Yeah.
If you fight it, you make it worse.
Yeah.
Right? And if you were just let go, when you let go, you can just slip your way out way more easily. Right?
Well, you know what you were saying about focus, and then after this we'll get into the root chakra. This was like kind of like an over-occurring thing that I think we did touch on in the first hour already. You know, focusing, chakras opening and closing, being balanced. Something that I have even mentioned before, even with like tarot, and I do think it's even the difference between Aries and Leo. Aries would be explosive, raw energy. Leo would be more focused and refined. The tarot card, a lot of times, I think, like when you see the guy at the lamp, when he's holding the lamp, a lot of times it's not a flame, it's more of like an orb. I even think, along with the tree, I do think that those are like, those lines are more of like focused, projective male energy, going from one, feminine in a sphere thing. You're escaping one and going to the next. Just like what I was saying that I think the chakras do. So going again with just the whole focusing, I think that like when you are able to shut everything off and actually focus, that is how you will be able to start moving from one to the next. Yeah. So like the whole thing sometimes is, is just, I just think shutting off, like I said before, the million radio stations going on in your head, and just actually focusing on like that one thing that you just want to accomplish.
Yeah, it's like a practice, like it's an art of practice to get to the stillness and the silence. And then when you can make time stand still, that's where you can feel like the presence of like eternity. Like that's what
I even think that's when you'll start feeling them
feel
too.
The source, or like people will say, like I feel the source, or like kind of like that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I'm sure I'm gonna butcher this word up. The Sanskrit name. I'm gonna go over just a few things, and then we'll get into our actual commentary on it. The Sanskrit name I have, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, Muladhara.
Muladhara. Muladhara chakra.
Oh, shit, I had it wrong too. Okay.
Yeah, that is root support. It's at the base of the spine. I don't know how to say this, some sort of plexus. The element of earth, function, survival, and grounding. The color would be red. The sense is smell. The sound is, and I find this interesting, lamb. I know you had said it before, but like Crowley was calling that thing he was channeling lamb.
Those are my initials. LAM is literally that too.
And you're wearing red. Oh shit.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that that they have different astrology things. How like in Chinese New Year, I'm year of the dog, and this is the year of the rabbit, and they have so many. They have one called the Mayan. It's a Mayan one where you're akin to something, right? And I put my birthday on there, and then for the Mayan one, I got red dragon, which is like a base chakra one. So that's like a part of what they say I'm akin to.
Oh damn!
Like that, yeah, like an initiator. Like the base chakra is like the initiator of the consciousness. It's like the awakening, or something like that.
Yes.
Then I have the vowel sound is as it's O as in rope. I think this is, and you know, when I say this, I'm not. Well, I mean, who knows? I'm not saying. I'm just making a joke. I'm not saying this is for real. But the pedals, it's 4. It is Vam Sam Sam. So to me, I was just thinking instead of pedals leaf, you have Sam triple leaves. But that's how I was thinking, being stoned, and it made me think of Sam Tripoli. I'm not saying that this has anything to do with him, but the joke I was making earlier, and this to me, I just found it funny because like he does have a lot of symbolism with this stuff in his logos, but whatever. I'm sure this is just coincidence, actually.
All coincidence.
You know, no, I'm like literally not actually digging at him. It's just a joke. Like the tarot suit is the pentacles. The Sephira is that would go with that. Would be Malkuth, obviously Earth. Here, you know, according to this that book, Wheels of Life, the planets would be Saturn and Earth. Metal would be lead, and the foods would be protein and meats. And then some of this other stuff I'll leave for the end. Animals, an elephant or an ox or a bull.
Oh.
The symbol itself, I'm sure it's been up on the screen already. 4 red petals with a yellow square downward pointing. 4 red petals, a yellow square, a downward pointing triangle. Shiva lingam around which Kundalini is coiled 3 1/2 times. A white elephant, 8 arrows outward. Above the Biga, however you say that, is the child Brahma and the Shakti Dakini. However you say all that. The Hindu deities, yeah, it's on the screen. It's like the sigil for that thing. The Hindu deities: Brahma, Dakini, Kabura, Uma. I can't even say some of these names because I've never even heard of them. Other gods you can associate with it: Hades, Atlas, Gaia. The archangel would be Oriel. And last but not least, the chief operating force, which to me does kind of make a whole lot of sense, gravity. So those are just some of the associations I'm pulling out of a book that I know is used, suggested highly amongst magicians. So.
Nice.
But like I had said before, I do think when it comes to that chakra, I guess the vice, really, that can help keep you grounded. Totally. I think fear goes along a lot with this chakra as well.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
And is like it's almost the fear of like your basic necessities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like how there's like that Maslow hierarchy of needs type of shit. You know what I mean? How you can't trip off getting all these other things on the higher part of the pyramid until you have like your shelter, your water, your basic food. You know what I mean? Because I'm not like who cares about all that other shit? You know what I mean?
You know, and that's what I was even going to say with this. And I do think this is part of like the psyop or, you know, whatever that's being done, the mind fucking itself. You know, to an extent, it makes sense to actually worry about your basic needs, to maybe get fearful over it. It's just the thing is we've been tricked into what our basic needs are.
Yeah, it's been
our basic needs is not
yeah.
$1,000 phone that's better than most computers some people own.
Yeah,
you know, like but like people
like
their
needs
basic needs is so beyond what's basic.
Yeah, no, that's why we're all like basically like we all have a shelter, we all have our food in our fridge, like technically we're privileged to an extent. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to worry about like our breakfast per se, you know what I mean, tomorrow morning. So that's like some type of privilege to an extent, you know, when it comes to the root chakra for sure. Dude.
Absolutely. It also relates, I think, to finances a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I was going to toss in materialism, which can almost kind of
materialism
like could cause financial worry.
Yeah, yeah, like that. Like that's definitely tied because with how we live now, like maybe not however many thousands like in the caveman days, but in these days with how we use currency or our interpretation of it, it does matter. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's a practical thing now, and so yeah, and you got to take care of that, you know, and yeah, it's pretty much like just all your survival stuff like that are needs in this physical world. So whatever your needs of this physical world is, and then it's like the beginning, the spark of like self-awareness. And it's very, and pretty much out of all of them, it's the primal one. It's the primal one, where the primal force is the energetic force that is the initiator, that, like, when you think of like something that's primal, it's like it can't be helped. Like how a dog can't help but sniff another dog's ass. Like that's a primal instinct, right? Like it's a primal thing that a lion was going to roar. That's a part of that it's primal, that a wolf is going to howl at the moon. That's primal. Like these things cannot be helped. They cannot be helped. So it's something of like that just is initiated in there. And then, so it has to do with like just how you are. And then that's just the way it is, you know?
Yeah. I was going to bring it back to the reptilian thing, because it is kind of like your reptilian brain, right? It's like that very basic primal stuff, like food.
I had said this on
shelter,
our planet.
Sex. Like that's it, right? Like
I had said that on our planetary series. I said that the brainstem was like for the root, like that. And it's very like that fight or flight. Like that's what I think about. Like people in the poker hall, like they're a good more than half. Let's just say more than half are going primarily from that brainstem, and they're thinking this or that, and like they're in fighting mode. It's this or that. You know what I mean? And then but
even if you think about that sphere being red, or that chakra, and then going along, I mean that goes along with Mars, you know, in a sense. If you look at the Kabbalah too, or just even going, you know, along with the colors and other ways with associations, you know, that could right there, fight or flight, you know. Yeah, and I actually do think, and the thing is too, is that like I do think in a sense, in a way, when you look at the Tree of Life of the Kabbalah, once you hit that sphere, if you're going up, that is kind of like a big step at actually like making a big leap. So like seeing that as being the root could actually busting out of the first one just be the biggest, you know, be a big leap already to even start going up the rest. You know what I'm getting at? You know, it's like, is that even a big battle in itself, just with the chakras, with just even releasing that one or controlling
that earlier for sure. Yeah, because that's like where the battle is, like in general for most everyone, is just to get grounded. It is like because if you can't get grounded, you can't get started. So like that's why whenever people do some kind of healing thing or a meditation, first they ground in, because if you can't ground in, you're gonna be not focused. You're not going to be able to retain any of the information that's coming. You're going to be kind of like discombobulated, where you're kind of not present. And if you can't get present from the beginning, the rest is going to be kind of fucked. You know what I mean? So good luck on getting on up to the more refined or the quicker to the quicker colors or whatever like that. So you do. So it is like really important, you know, to take care of your needs.
Yeah. When I used to teach yoga classes, I would say this thing all the time, like, you have to like root down to reach up. Mm-hmm. So like you have to like get very grounded in order to have a base to like extend yourself, like physically, but also like metaphysically, right? It's the same. And the root like of the base stem is where like our vagus nerve is. Yeah. So the vagus nerve controls like your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight response, or the stress response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is like the calming response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the one that you get after a nice meditation, or if you got like a nice massage or something like that, or you're in the steam room, in the jacuzzi, something like that. And then the other one is like if you're gonna get down and you need, and like the fighting one, and maybe you're getting chased by someone in a dark alley or something like that, or you need to like put up your guard really hard for someone.
Yeah, like they have good functions for sure. Like the sympathetic nervous system has a good function. But like in today's society, we're not being chased by like tigers and bears. Our body is perceiving. I
was thinking that in my head. That's
other
so funny.
threats, like, you know, someone mouthing off to you on social media is like a threat to you, or like, I don't know, anything you'd interact with that's stressful, you know? So our stresses are different and they're constant.
Yeah, because what happens
if you let them be stresses.
Yeah, if you mess with that with the fight one too much, you know what I mean? The sympathetic one, the sympathetic nervous system, you're gonna fry your nervous system. It's gonna be wrecked, and then your immune system's gonna be shot. You'll be sniffling all the time, like, and so you can do this from either hella stress, or if you work your body like crazy. Like I even did it a couple times from going berserk in the gym years ago. Like I fried my central nervous system a couple times where I had to take like a week or two off completely because I was like fried, where I couldn't stop getting sick, and then my shit was breaking down so much, like that it was like that I fried my CNS, you know, and without rest, because you have to like be able to rest in between or whatever.
Absolutely, rest is very important and not prioritized in our culture.
Yeah. And then all these other things that we take for granted, like we don't think about digesting, like pooping. If you got to take a poop, you go to the bathroom, right? Or things like sleeping. You don't think about when you're sleeping, you just sleep, right? All that resting, like if you overstimulated that sympathetic nervous system, you're not going to be able to digest properly. You're not going to be able to sleep and get rest. Like it's going to be off kilter, and then people get all these kind of, and like all these different sicknesses from that, you know.
Yes.
One thing I did want to also say about, I think, the root chakra, you know, sometimes I also do think that that's like kind of like a culmination of like all the other ones being screwed up in a sense. Or like if you were to take, I guess maybe like I was joking around about the 7 deadly sins, if we were to take those and package them into something that reacts on that, that would almost kind of be the root chakra. And I guess the reason I'm even getting at that is because if you start looking at even basic necessities, that would be food. People are easily addicted to food, act out with food. Reproduction, to keep even the race going, that needs to happen. Some people actually do believe that I need to have a child when that's my role in life. So in a sense, sex even starts in the root one. If you're worried about actually basic needs of keeping, life going, money's so and then that goes off into materialism is now a way to act out. So like even in the beginning, even in the first sphere, and if you're like hard, totally off balanced and like deeply rooted and just like totally living in like, there's a certain phrase for it, I forgot. It goes with the Kabbalah. It's like kind of like animalistic living like that. You could be you will have a lot of things just from that one that can actually start being signs of like, like I said, overweight. You could already start with sex already. It could already kind of be an issue there. Materialistic things, then that will start bringing in finance. Well, then maybe for me to have these things that I think are basic needs, which aren't, they're just materialistic things. Now I need to make more money. So now I'm going to do whatever I need to make more money. So like a lot of those basic things really, I think, is even like a deficiency of the top ones coming down and actually really anchoring into in that first one.
Because like even with the whole baby, if you think you have to have babies, but it's dependent on my survival for my lineage of survival, then if you think about it in terms of that, then that's where it gets kind of wonky.
But I even like how she mentioned before, even finances going along with that is huge. I think money, because you need it for materialistic things, I do think that is one of the biggest things though with screwing up this chakra, or for a lot of people why it's screwed up, is because of the materialistic being so attached to this world. You're rooting yourself into it more. In my opinion, these LGBTQWXYZ people, as they're throwing these labels on them, all they're doing is just growing another root into the ground. You're just throwing another label. And
to fixate on it so much.
That's what it is.
Fixating on
that
sex
determines
and
them.
And
yes, again,
sexuality. Why are you so fixated?
You're going to take that wavelength you were showing before, and you're going to now look at even what you can look at, and look at even less of a sliver of what you are.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that so this area is down by the coccyx, right? Like kind of like below your tailbone and all that. So I think about like a tail, right? Like where we're talking about reptiles, right? Brainstem, your tail. So like when you chase your tail, chase the dragon, chase your tail.
Yeah.
This is the root. This is the root. This is the chakra where that shit happens, where the earthly spinning and chasing your tail in the earth.
Yeah. And I think these first two chakras that we're going to talk about, they're the ones where like a lot of trauma will get stored.
Yes. Yeah. And then that's like really what I was also trying to get at, like depending on what brought on the way you think or how you were programmed. Again, I love using this as an example, and this is just my opinion, in the Gita. I really do think that dude standing there in the battlefield, those aren't like real people. those are the things that he used to construct his mind with growing up. Your friends, your teachers, your parents, your relatives, your neighbor. It's all these people that told you something. Oh, yeah, that makes sense as a kid. That stays with you. All that programming, if you experience trauma or whatever, I don't know, whatever programmed the person to make them what it is. I think by the time all that mental illness or mental, it's not disease as in, a disease, dis-ease, a mental dis-ease going on up there eventually culminates and turns into your physical actions in this world, which I think the root chakra is a real good representation of your physical actions because of the mental part inside.
Yeah, well, it can influence your epigenetics, like how your genes are expressed. So it does have like physical consequences for the better or the worse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can make ourselves sick.
Sorry?
We can make ourselves sick just through stress.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is something I don't want to get it too far into it because of the censorship, and regardless, not because of YouTube, just anything. I have said before, and people may think I'm crazy, but I do think it's quite possible in the past people could have been so deathly afraid that they were going to get something and die that they could have actually done something to themselves. I know that sounds crazy.
100%.
But I think you can literally screw yourself up by believing it because your body will make it then happen.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's, the function of media in that scenario that you're talking about, to drive home the fear so that when you do feel something, you're like, oh my God, is this happening to me? Am I going to die? And then you get activated right to that root, that reptilian brain, right?
Yeah, well, like the predecessor to things manifesting or actions or whatever you want to call them is the thoughts. However the thought came, so that's going to be a predecessor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
man. Like with the chakra, it's like so there's like so red, but I think like the type of red kind of matters. Like I had learned from Stuart Swerdlow that he would use pale red, and I think that's kind of important in a sense because if you think about like the different types of red you could have, like there's like that kind of red that you see out there that's like this very bright red, like where you see like people have like those kind of bright red eyes. That's kind of like a nasty type of red, where it's that bright red, that bloody red. That's kind of like a nastier red. And then you can have like another one that's like a crimson red, which I think is kind of cool in a way. Like I think that might be the last of maybe the quote unquote good red before you get to orange. And then so yeah, like and then if your red starts to get like maybe like a muddier red, then that's kind of like a sign that the chakra is like too overactive, because then that's when things get muddied up. Muddied up is associated with gunk, like gunkiness, and then that's the stuff that slows the cog of the wheel of the kundalini, is this type of gunkiness. Like, how like in Venom there's that black shit, you know what I mean? That's like gunk.
Black goo.
Like it's like energetic. Like black goo is like energetic gunk. And then so like that's the kind of stuff that with manipulating energy you freaking help to detoxify or to get out, so yeah, so I think like the tones, just how tones and like frequencies and all that stuff we were saying earlier, like the tone of the color will matter, because I wouldn't want to do my chakra like that kind of that crazy bloody red where you see it's like demonic eyes, you know what I mean, like that kind of one, like that beastly kind. Like I wouldn't want it to be like when you say pale, there's like a calmness to it, because the red could be, since its prime was very, you know what I mean? But if you add the pale, it's like a mellower, like it'll mellow it out. So there's like a balance.
Yeah. I even think on the tree of life, you have all those different spheres. Each one of those spheres also have 4 colors to it. I actually do think that is just showing the frequency changing before it can, transmute into the next one.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it is actually showing you a gradual change, possibly through the frequencies that the colors make, how one melds into the next.
Yeah. Kind of reminds you like
which is why different colors of red could actually mean different things.
Yeah, for sure.
Like different shades of it and stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely like you'd start taking pink and then dark red. I mean, there are just a different shade of each other. In my opinion, totally different opposites part of the tree that would fit on.
It has to mean something.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
if you wanted to
mean
use it in occultism and occult art, definitely a difference, a huge difference in some ways.
Yeah, it's like in the Asian thing of like the whole astrology or whatever, how they have like the elements like water and this and that. So in them, like they'll add, well, this is the metal version, or this is the wood version, or this is the so like you like that's kind of like the different tones of a color. Like it's a kind of insinuating that.
Yes, no, I know exactly what you mean.
Do you want me to say some yoga poses?
Yes. Sorry. Get into that. Yes.
No,
yes.
that's okay. Just before we move on to the next one. So some poses that activate or can help your root chakra is standing head to knee. So like you were saying, when you fold, right? So
which I'll be getting into in the last one. Yes.
That's a whole other thing. So that's called Uttanasana, mountain pose, sun salutations, child's pose, which a lot of people know, and chair pose. So these are very like grounding poses, right? Very much in the lower half of the body.
Yeah, actually a lot of focusing on that being like a movement of the area of movement, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Right on.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up the first episode of this, and I'm thinking the next one would probably be 3, and then the next one after that we'll finish off with 2, and then cover up some more associations that me and Louie had, and I might have some spiel on some idea that I have with the chakras. We'll see how that goes. Thank you very much. I might have screwed it up before. I don't think I actually had you guys introduce like your shows or kind of really introduce you. I'm really sorry about that. Again, like I said before, I'm not used to actually doing the introduction on this show. And I hate doing intros, actually. So I screwed it all up, being nervous about it. And so why don't I let Louie, why don't you, as we're, I guess, exiting now, why don't you plug your show? You should have plugged at the beginning. Plug your stuff. Let everybody know, like, what your show's about, too, as well. What you're into.
Yeah, right on. Thanks, bro. Yeah, well, the show is called Uncanny Mystic Minds, Uncanny Mystic Minds podcast. And it's a show that talks... I guess I like to cover mystical concepts pertaining to things of energy, energetic principles, energetic concepts, and then even esoteric things, magical things, things of psychic natures, and then things that are just kind of good for developing and getting to know your spiritual side, so spiritual development things, and then and then learning about the connectedness, the oneness that we all have here, that kind of is here with the illusion of all this separateness. So that's where the whole shindig, and that's where all the shit hits the fan. And so you can check that out.
Definitely. I mean, if you're listening to this show, I highly suggest to go check out his. I think like you would enjoy it just as much as mine. Like it's definitely, we're on the same page. We talk about different things, but definitely on the same page. So definitely go check out Uncanny Mystic Minds, and the link for that will be in the bottom with the show notes. And Teresa, would you like to plug that amazing podcast you have?
Yeah, I have another amazing podcast co-hosted with you called The Spiritual Gangsters. So it's a lot of fun. We talk with people. Louis would make a great guest.
I was thinking that before when he said something. I was like, oh, another guest.
Yeah, we basically talk with, the awake crowd, but not necessarily about conspiracies, although it usually relates back. Relates back to that somehow. But it's like cool chats for the awake and aware, and talk about like personal transformation or like spiritual experiences or pop culture. Like it's a wide variety of stuff, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy that show a lot.
Yeah.
I like that show too. It's a cool show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lily.
And the links for that are in my link tree as well, because I am a co-host. So, and I do think Ellen actually like added like a few links, like the YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Yeah, it's not just one. I think she added a few links. So pretty much the links to her show are the same thing in my link tree. So go check that out. Louis' links are in the bottom, like I said before. I want to remind people again, the Element chat. Check that out, the Element server. You can do web-based as well, so if you want to do it from Safari on your phone, or if you have an Android, or if you just want to do it from your computer, you don't need another app, so you can set it up that way. Like I said before, there is other shows in there. There are multiple chats. We have the Twin Peaks watch party going on, and I'm sure we'll be doing other watch parties in the future. So check that out. Check out my new Twitter. The other one's inactive, or it's supposed to be, whatever. Yeah, check that out. If you want to catch lives or going forward any posts or whatever, check out the new Twitter. That's in the bottom. I do have a TikTok. Helen talked me into making it, and she kind of set it up for me. I guess you can check that out if you want to see my shit posting. It's just another avenue of checking out my shit posting. There'll probably be less arguments because nobody's following me. So you can check out there. Actually, I don't think there's been any. It's just been a few likes. So check all that stuff out, all that new stuff that I just mentioned. Everything's in the link tree if you want to catch it. Again, if you're listening to this, there is video platforms that this stuff is on. The Occult Rejects is on BitChute and also YouTube. Those links are in the bottom. If you're watching this, we're also on podcasts. Not every single thing will go on to YouTube, so if you're watching this, you may have to check out BitChute or just listen. So just a reminder to people who might be new to the channel and don't know. And if you're new to the channel, there's 2 years of stuff too. Like I re-release stuff, and I've actually found out from people that listen to the show, because I guess you don't want to scroll back more than 2 months. They never knew that we even did those shows. So you might want to go check out some of the older stuff as well. Thank you very much. And if this is your first time listening to this and you're still listening, that's what's up. Thank you. Just hit that sub button. You might as well if you're still listening. And if you enjoyed this, pass it on. If you're a returning listener, that's what's up. Thank you very much for that as well. And like I've said before, I don't talk about peanut butter whiskey or dick pills. There's no commercials and there's no paywall. If you want to show your gratitude, just share this. Pass it on. That's all.
Puff, puff, pass.
Yes, exactly. Yo, I got to start using that. That's all you got to do. Puff, puff, pass. That's it.
Play, pass.
Yeah, puff, puff while you watch and then pass the episode on. That's it. There you go. I'll be happy with that. That's better than $5 to me. So, thank you all again for checking this out. There should be plenty of other series coming up, too. I mean, I'm not even done with this one, but I do plan on there will be a tarot series that we will be coming back for again. And then, other series is some more cults, Cult Rejects. We always love covering cults here. So I got a few of those up my sleeve, too, that I think will be actually pretty freaking interesting. And just some other weird stuff. So not just so much guests. There is more topics coming up. I just needed some time. That's why I had a lot of guests on. But plenty of stuff definitely on the way for the Occult Rejects. So thank you all for listening. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.